Hello and welcome to Hardspace Shipbreaker. My name is Volcata, and today we will be breaking down the Atlas Roustabout Tug. Now the Roustabout is the third and largest variant of the Atlas, which was introduced in version 0.7, which happens to be the version that this episode is being recorded in. Now, since I am rank 30, there's a couple of things to note. First of all, this will be a hazard level 9 ship, and since the ship is normally introduced fairly early in the game, if you are a newer player, you probably will not be running into this at hazard level 9. That's fine, don't worry about it. All it means is that it won't be as dangerous for you. All the strategies will still apply. Also, since I am rank 30, I have maximum upgrades for a number of the tools, such as having all the tethers and maximum strength on my grappler. So for you, some things may be a little bit more challenging to move around, but the strategies, again, will still apply. Tethers do not get any stronger later on, they just last longer. That being said, let's hop into this. Now, normally on these ships, you'll see me start taking everything off the front right from the beginning. This one, it is important for us not to do so because we want to reserve the mass. Now, I'm getting these two specifically because they are on the engine housing, and I don't want to accidentally forget about them later. But everything else, it adds up, so I'm going to leave everything else attached how I can. I'm not even going to depressurize the ship because doing so would require me to reduce the mass by cutting a hole somewhere. And it is very important that there is enough mass to keep this ship from bugging out. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. Okay, you're getting away from me. Come back. Now, on the display in the middle where you see it says processor and it says panel, nanocarbon, 79,533 kilograms. That's the total mass of everything that's connected. We need that mass to stay above 53. And you will see why once we get to the bug. But due to that, we need to work all four of the engines before we do anything else. I'm not going to cut the top nozzle off because when we reveal the bug, the footage for the bug, I want it to mirror what we're doing now, and that's going to be the last engine we work. Already cut those. I already cut that. Also, I would normally collect up these coolant canisters that you're seeing because I don't use them. But I'm leaving them because I'm going to show you an alternate strategy for working these engines that you may be more comfortable with.
Valuable object processed.
So let's start with what I'm going to call standard strategy, or the quicker strategy. This is the way I do it.
Salvage
Now,
deposit accepted.
You'll notice that there's a very tight space here and there are a bunch of fuel pipes. These fuel pipes are live, and we cannot squeeze through here. Unfortunately, the fuel valve is all the way back there at the back. That means we have to start a fire. Or we're going to start a fire. First thing we want to do is we want to pre-tether the thruster, because we want it to get out of our way as soon as it's freed. And then we're going to line up. And I want to cut across the corners because it's easier to fly on the cardinals and remain precise. You'll see what I'm talking about. So we're going to cut, I'm going to fly across the corner, cut, fly up, there's no spinning, cut, straight down, and cut. Get out of the way of the thruster. You can see the fire is spreading towards the back. We're going to catch on fire a little bit there, that's alright.
Fire damage.
We're going to look back, you can see that the fire still has a little bit of a ways to go. So we had a fair amount of time to pull that switch. You don't really want to go sightseeing, but you do have enough time to get back there and not really worry too much. Also, you might notice that there was a path we could fly across the bottom. That's true for the bottom engine, because there are lights on the top and you would run into them if you tried to fly at the top. It is a quicker way to go through if you don't want to dodge the obstacles. On the top engine, the lights are on the bottom, so you have to fly across the top. So let's grab a coolant canister. We'll show you the alternate strategy. This requires a little bit of dexterity because we're going to bang this coolant canister and we're going to try to catch it. It might come flying out, it might go flying in. Who knows? Fortunately, we have plenty of canisters if we lose a couple of them. So we're just going to bump it. And then we're going to try to catch it. Catch it? All right. It's a little closer to me than I like, but that's all right. Pointing away. So you can see we're frosting down the pipes. Good and frosty. Doesn't hurt to get a little bit of the pipe in the background too. Oh, get a little too close. It's okay if we frost the thruster, it will de-thaw, or thaw. All right, and then let's just pick up the canister to get credit for it. And gets it cutting. You can see we haven't even bothered to pre-tether the thruster because there are no fires starting. Let's pull this out, send it to the barge. Now there's no racing. This is what I mentioned earlier, you could fly across the bottom because the lights are not on the bottom.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
And then just pull the switch. And then we're going to do this one, what I consider to be the regular way, the way I do it. Also, if we check our mass, we are at 69,000. We're above the 53,000, what we'll consider minimum. Cut. Go across the corner, cut.
Detecting elevated interior
Climb
volatility.
back up, go across the corner, and cut. See how nice and smooth that is? Like the ring of fire, so we'll go to the top on this one. And we can even two-fist this. It has no effect using both hands. See, we bump into the lights if we're on the lights side.
Fuel levels are low. Fuel supplies are
All right,
available for purchase.
so here we're going
master
to cut
track.
to a clip of what happens if that mass is below 53 kilograms when we do the last engine. And that's if the engines are still attached to the ship. Now you can get around this physics bug by detaching the engines from the ship if, say you've already done some other stuff, but that still kind of introduces some problems with the engines kind of being squirrely because they're no longer tied down. Which is why I recommend doing these right off the bat. So let's cut to that clip right now.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits reimbursed.
And as you can see, if the mass of the ship is too low, which it will be if you've been salvaging anything else on the ship, then that final engine can do this. Can and pretty much will.
Processing valuable object. Credits awarded.
So, as you saw, that was quite moving. And that's why we are doing this with a higher mass. So we're going to do the same engine the same way. as you saw in that clip just now. And you'll see the better way, the better behavior of the ship, if it is still heavy enough to negate the physics bug.
Salvage secured. Account credit
Line it
applied.
up. It's on the top, so we can fly at the top. Catch fire a little bit.
Fire damage.
You know, a little heat didn't hurt anybody, right? The cold of space, kind of warm up. And now when we come out, you'll see the ship is still where it belongs. Now normally I don't use these canisters, so I would have removed these as soon as I took the panels off. But if you didn't, don't forget to grab these now, because it's real easy to forget about them. Now they're not high value, but you will get dinged if they end up going into the processor with everything else. And if you're trying to get your maximum percentage, then, you know, every little bit counts. And I definitely forget to remove these if I don't do them right at the beginning. So I'm not going to wait until I'm sending these into the processor to make sure. I don't think there are any of them on the other side. Oops, one down here. But to be thorough, we're going to check. All right, they're good. Now this one you can get away with kind of peeling it away. Most of them I'll pull in straight because, you know, I don't like them getting near the furnace. Also going to grab this light. Again, if you don't want to bother getting the lights, that's perfectly fine. They're not, you know,
Salvage deposit.
high value.
You got 5 minutes left in this ship.
But we are trying to, you know, maximize our percentage for this episode, so we're going to grab them.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
And if you are lower level, your grappler may or may not be strong enough to move these manually, but as you can see, we don't really need to.
Valuable
Tethers can
object
handle it for us.
processed. Credits awarded.
But it's good to stick around and babysit these and make sure that the furnace doesn't somehow get his hungry hands on them. So the push pad here needs to be cut in 3 places. That's number 1.
Object accepted for processing.
2 and 3 are right here. Make sure that you don't accidentally cut the push pad itself. See the red line? Just kind of nudge that out. There you go. Start getting all the loose objects off the front. You don't have to use tethers to pull these off. If you don't have a bunch of tethers, that's fine.
Credits transferred.
Just save a little bit of time. Let's get these other housings in. Do the same things we did on the previous ones.
Caution. Tether supplies are low.
After we get the light off of it. Give me, please. Thank you.
Salvage secured. Account credit applied.
And light off the top. Make sure they don't run into each other here and cause this guy to go into the furnace.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
Also, these can get stuck, and that's not good.
Valuable object processed. Credits deposited.
Go ahead and cancel the tether there and let them. It's safe to send him in now. And let's not forget that we have a bunch of quasar thrusters on this back wall here. Just daisy chain them in.
Salvage secured. Account credit applied.
Cut this. That.
Salvage deposit
And
accepted.
cut that.
Credits transferred.
Oop, that doesn't go there, that goes down there.
Warning. No tethers remaining.
That would have been silly. There's some tethers and some fuel.
Welcome to Ventatron 9000. Thank you.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
And we just got a minute and a half left, so let's get all these things cleaned up on the outside, and then we will
Secured. Account credit
go inside the ship and depressurize next shift.
Salvage deposit accepted.
Now,
Credits
this whole
transferred.
fuel assembly here is a barge item. The back plate can't be cut, so it's safe to kind of use it as a background for your cutting.
On this shift.
Obviously, you want to be careful not to hit the fuel tanks, because that could be bad. Especially when you're right next to them. Give it a little love tap. Little left tap. I'm
Salvage
stuck.
secured. Credits deposited.
Okay, there we go. I'm finally unstuck. Now we are at about 10 seconds left. Normally you don't want to send things to the barge when you're within about 10 seconds, but I think we can make sure that one gets there. And the reason is because
Salvage secured.
if an object's on its
Account
way
credit
to the
applied.
barge at the end of a shift, the barge takes time to turn back on at the beginning of the next shift, and it can actually literally pass through the barge. So anything you've sent to the barge, you want to make sure has been credited before the shift ends. And we have 0 loss. Excellent first shift. Pure profit. So let's head up to the second shift. All right, shift number 2. We are full on tethers, more or less, for full on fuel. Now, these parts here are free floating. These can be removed. Note that there are panels that can be removed that don't need to be removed. You can see the pulsating off of around my cursor. It all goes to the processor, so just be sure you don't tether that. Tether the back or the side. And just let the whole thing go in. We're double checking to make sure we didn't miss anything like a light or anything. And these aren't very heavy, although this one I believe still has the stuff on it, so let's get this first. Being careful not to hit the tanks that go boom.
Processing valuable object. Credits awarded.
Find it here, give it a little left tap. Just to get it out of that little compartment. Now these housings are still attached to the ship, so they're not going to move.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited. Salvage gained.
And in fact, while we're here, we should probably grab these lights because we'll forget about them later on. We should do this on the other side as well.
Salvage secured.
Grab that.
Account credit applied.
Our tether between our legs. Now this exterior part here, this canopy, is a furnace part, but the interior is still pressurized. Which again, we would normally depressurize a ship before we got to this point, but on this ship specifically, we wanted to retain as much mass as we could,
Valuable
as we
object
saw in
processed.
the
Credits
previous
awarded.
shift. So let's not forget that we still have to depressurize.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
We're going to leave as many of the engines attached as we can, which is to say 2 of them, because we want to increase the mass. And what we're going to remove are the top 2, because we're going to depressurize through the roof, not through the floor, even though I would like to depressurize through the floor. The reason we're not going to depressurize through the floor is because of the second bug that I want to show you. And let's depressurize here, or let's open up the door at least. Now we don't need this door anymore, so we're going to go ahead and loot it now.
Salvage secured.
These
Credits
cut
deposited.
points here on the top are actually keeping the roof on. Well, that's not technically true. They are attached to the roof, but we could leave it all as one unit, but we don't want to. So we're going to remove them. Now these we're not going to flip around, we're just going to tether them like that. We are going to eyeball them and make sure they don't get too close to the furnace. Doesn't hurt to give it a little love tap there. There we go. And that's still attached to the ship. Again, we're leaving those attached for the purposes of mass. Not because of any bugs, just because, you know, when we depressurize, we want the ship to be a little heavier so that there's less chance of the depressurization event moving the ship. We would leave these top ones
Credits awarded.
attached, but I want the roof to clear away. All right. So I want to point out, first of all, that there are cut points here, which are attached to the bottom. And you'll see that in the bug video we're getting ready to show you.
Airlock pressure levels increasing.
Wires, which is something that we could have used when we were going through the campaign. And down here, so there are internal
Credits
cut points, which is holding the roof on. That's the only thing that's holding the roof on right now. And in the bottom, there are cut points just like it, which are holding the bottom on. I'm gonna grab all these little stray bits. We're gonna go into the hull and look for any other stray bits. Although we didn't really have to open that door, we could have flown through that hole. And that is a thing to note, that the hull spills into the bottom, which I believe is the reason for the depressurization bug, if we go to the bottom. All right, I'm not seeing collectibles. Fly back through here. We'll close the door for no real reason. Now, there is a bug that has been introduced in version 0.7, which is that when a chamber depressurizes, the atmospheric regulators pop off the walls. Now, as you can see by looking at this, where my cursor is over it, we are getting the pulsating symbol showing us that it is actually attached to the wall. We are going to detach it. This is against my standard strategy. You know, we don't normally want to create more floating objects, but we're going to put it in the room that's going to depressurize to minimize the chance that it's going to bang into things. We're going to close the bottom again. And now we're going to cut to a clip showing you what would happen if you depressurize the bottom for the floor instead of depressurizing through the roof. So let's go ahead and cut to that now. You could do this in either order, the outside or the inside first. It's going to be the same result. This way, if we're inside, we get to see what's happening.
Airlock pressure levels dropping. Airlock pressure levels increasing.
And then if we cut it from the inside to get the floor out and depressurize from the bottom. See this wall back here and that wall back there? Remember what they look like, because they're going to look a lot different really soon.
Electrical damage.
This is why we don't depressurize through the bottom. This can also cause these to get damaged, and it can even cause the reactor to go into meltdown. Alright, so you can see why cutting to the bottom, unfortunately, is a little bit problematic. And that's why we are choosing to go through the roof. Make sure everything else is attached here. We're going to grab this. I'm a little bit nervous about going through the roof because I don't want things flying around and hitting these things. But that's just kind of the nature of it, you know, what's going wrong with that bug. So there's everything to collect in the front. Squeaky toy. Give me, oh, come back. And another atmospheric regulator. We're leaving everything else attached. Backing out, backing out, backing out. Now we could just plug all these. I said could, we're going to. I'm just gonna put all these in. Normally I don't like to spend the time to put things in airlocks, but you know what? This seems like a great time to do that. This way we don't have to chase them through space. And they are a small object, so they're real easy to store. Bye, guys.
Airlock pressure levels.
All right. So we're going to cut our way through the ceiling, and we're going to cross our fingers. I will note that for some reason, these pipes seem to be really touchy about the stinger and really easy to set off. I've done it multiple times, so or the split saw, so I'm going to use a stinger to free these up. Just out of an overabundance of caution, because it's no fun when they catch fire. All right. Let's get near a wall. Here we go. Grab the wall. All right. Nothing broke. That's great. Why are we still hearing depressurization sounds? Nothing else is depressurizing. Okay. I can send that to the processor. Now, when we depressurize by opening this door, we shouldn't see the bug that we saw in the clip. This should be... Oh, the thing we were hearing depressurizing was the front, because I forgot to close that door. That's all right. One less thing that we have to flip the switch on. Now that should depressurize safely. Excellent. All right, so now we have a fully depressurized and safe ship, and we can continue salvaging safely. Now I'm going to remove these so I can take the floor out.
Credits deposited.
And I'm going to lighten the ship up for the eventual twirl we're going to do. Strategy that I like doing on the Atlas. If you have seen my other two Atlas how-tos for the Scout and the Nomad, you'll know what I'm talking about. Straighten them out a little bit. There we go. I canceled the tether now that it should be in the gravity well because I want it to kind of go in straight. Not something you necessarily have to do, but don't be surprised if one of the engine walls ends up going in sideways and getting stuck in the opening. They are known to do that.
Valuable object processed. Credits awarded.
The reason I'm not pointing it straight into the processor is because I want the back to have a chance to kind of straighten out, so that's further away from the furnace. You can see the furnace trying really hard to grab it, even though it's pretty well into the processor. All right, that's good to go.
Valuable object.
Now we're going to go...
Awarded.
Actually, not we're going to go inside yet. We're going to grab our wayward regulators.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
And we're going to head down here and cut the floor out. We're going to waste a tether by clicking wrong. Then we're going to cut out the floor. Now that that's a safe thing to do. And we're going to miss the thing that's right in front of us. As you can see, it just doesn't want to come free. Alright, we're going to give you one more love tap here. There you go. I knew you could do it. I had faith in you. Okay, that apparently thinks it is tethered to the ship, even though there's nothing there to tether to. We'll see if that wins out on the tether war, which I think it's going to, especially if we help it. There we go. We only have a minute left. So we're going to grab some stray objects. We'll deal with the reactor and all the electronics when we're not up against the clock.
Account credit applied.
I'm going to go ahead and remove this door handle. Because, you know what, we're going for a maximum percentage.
All right,
Why not
wrap it up.
collect up
You got
some
about
door
a
pieces?
minute left.
We are just kind of killing a little bit of time here while we're waiting to run the clock out. Because we don't want to be sending, you know, again, things to the barge right at the last second. And I don't want to get into moving all these electronics under the pressure of the clock running out.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
We can start cutting things up, preparing them for the next shift. Okay, when you're doing this, make sure that the red line is not across the airlock. All right, we're still at 0% destroyed. Very nice. Very nice indeed. Let's jump to shift number 3. All right, shift 3. We have plenty of fuel, plenty of tethers, and a very naked looking hulk of a ship. So now that it is depressurized, we can safely remove this canopy. We might as well do that while we're here. Now the canopy can be cut, so be careful not to do so. Remove that and send it in. We're not going to bother messing with anything inside the cockpit at the moment. We're going to focus primarily on getting the shell taken apart. So let's get back in here. We did cut all of that. In fact, the back probably is loose at this point. Yep, it is. Very nice. And of course, we did get the console off of the back, because that's the first thing we did early on. As is customary. Actually, I'm going to grab the side. I don't want it to flip. And that whole thing should be processor. Another thing that I'm finding that I like about the Atlas series is that they didn't go crazy with a bunch of lights everywhere. I don't feel like we have a bunch of lights all over the place that we have to pluck off of everything.
Valuable object processed. Credits deposited.
And that is appreciated. Because I've always felt like they got a little bit generous with, you know, a bunch of lights in a place where nobody is actually ever going to be. All right, all this up. No lights, no lights. Tether these all to different points so they try to avoid a traffic jam. Cut this off the front.
Valuable object processed. Credits awarded.
And unlike the mackerel, we can actually fit through here. Whereas we cannot fit above the cockpit in the mackerel. And for our level 9 hazard ship, there are awfully few canisters, but I think most of the hazard is in the bottom where it's really densely packed on electronics. I think that's where we're getting most of our hazard level in this one.
Object accepted for processing. Credits deposited.
A little bit of boop, and a little boop. All right. Now remember, you can, if you grab something from the back with a tether, the tether will go through it, which is why you'll notice sometimes I grab from the back as opposed to swinging around. You see the tether actually flip to the front. That's true on any ship. It's just kind of a quirk of the game. And you can take advantage of it. All right, no front lights or anything that we missed on it. Everything looking good. We did miss one cut. Now we're being careful to cut that because if we turn to this other angle, we would get the wall. And we kind of don't want to get the wall.
Processing valuable objects. Credits awarded.
And there's a light on the other side. We'll get to it. We're going to give us a little left tap to the front.
Credits deposited.
Just to kind of get it away so it doesn't bang all over the ship. And again, the reason we do that is because of the physics bugs, where light things will move heavy objects. And if it's too close and it bumps into this, it can move the whole thing all around, and I just kind of don't want it to. All right, we're not going to bother looting the things in the top at this point. We will get to them.
Valuable object processed. Credits deposited. Salvage gains observed.
All right, where'd the other half of the door go? There it is. We have our second milestone. Now what we are going to do before we go anywhere is we're going to remove these fuel tanks, because they are definitely a hazard. Just don't need to have a stray something or something happen and then, you know, boom.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
All right. And we're leaving everything in the cockpit for now. If you have seen the other episodes of the Atlas, you know what's in store. All right. Let's get rid of the reactor. And yeah, this is where our hazard is. Every one of these is here, and every one of them has a power cell on it. Fortunately, we can just do this. And that will just separate it all. Look at that, how nice and neat that is. We'll have to pluck all the power cells floating around, but it's nice and safe.
Salvage secured.
We'll have to cut out this reactor plate, so that's going to cause us a little damage on the ship. Can't be avoided.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited. Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred. Salvage secured. Account credit applied.
Oh, I forgot to close the door. This probably will not work. Nope, because I removed all of the power cells. So we're not going to cut the door out of this
Salvage
opening.
secured.
That's okay.
Credits deposited.
But it is something we're going to lose. And we don't need anything up here. We need to cut these out next. Being careful not to cut the cables. Boop. Now, I have seen this kind of get stuck on the cables sometimes. That's kind of unfortunate. Fortunately, that one did not.
Valuable object processed. Credits awarded.
Yep, that one's stuck on the cables. So that's gonna be a little bit messy. Yeah, yep. It thinks it is connected to everything else. Oh, is there a cut point? That's the cut point I'm looking for.
Object accepted for processing. Credits deposited.
As you can see, there is no, like, there's no way between them. They're just stuck on. So we're going to lose a little bit of cabling. I'm not going to try to, I guess I could try to split some of it off. Yeah, I can save some of it.
Deposit accepted.
All right, so that's the entire bottom. Worry about the radiation, reactor plate later. We're going to tether this towards the barge.
Credits transferred.
Cutter, there's 5 minutes remaining in this shift. Get in while the getting's
Yeah, we're going
good.
to cancel tether.
We wrap.
Salvage secured. Account credit applied.
Boy, this ship is packed. And it is so much easier to get all these items out of the cockpit onto the barge with the barge just right below us. Just tether,
Salvage
tether,
secured.
fire.
Credits deposited.
Make sure we get the right thing here. Just a little bit of pew.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
I would like to have this tilted down just a little bit more.
Salvaged in full. Credits applied.
All right. There's so many things in here. Good money.
Salvage secured.
Just realized I also forgot to close the door to this room, so we're gonna lose that door as well.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
'Cause none of the door handles will work now. All right, cockpit is
Salvage
cleared.
secured. Account credit applied.
If we're really fast about this, we might be able to finish this shift, but I don't think so. We have some delicate cutting to do still.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
With the pipes. Canceled tether.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited. Salvage secured.
Grabbing
Account credit applied.
$2,000 posters.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
I'm going to stinger these because they're so close to the wall and the wall can get cut. They go into the processor. I'm trying to finish this shift, so I wanted to just get them out of the way because this needs to be on its way to the furnace. I'm going to do a quick look over here to make sure we didn't miss any lights or consoles. I think we got it all. Oh, no, not everything.
Salvage secured. Account credit applied.
Normally we would maybe take an effort to try to cut the aluminum off the back of that.
1 minute left, Cutter.
We are out of
Time to
time.
start wrapping things up. Weaver out.
Credits deposited.
You not on the barge? Huh, you were not on the barge.
Salvage deposit
Where are the
accepted.
last...
Credits transferred.
Where's the last fuel thing? Fuel thingy. There you are. Trying to be sneaky on me. Alright, we didn't leave any on the back. Alright. Well, we did it.
Warning. Fuel levels are low.
Doing a last check to make sure no little stray objects that we can grab in the last few seconds. All right. Whew. $99.6%. That's the way you do it. So that's going to wrap it for this episode. I hope that everyone enjoyed it. 99.6% is pretty awesome. That's quite an accomplishment. So I'm very pleased with the way this turned out. And, you know, as always, there are lots of ways of doing this. You don't have to follow my methods. The point of this is to show you methods that you can use, kind of reveal some of the things that might be hidden, and try to show you what pitfalls are in, you know, like when we showed where there are bugs associated with what can happen if you know, things don't go right. That's really the purpose of this. So feel free to try doing it your own way, or do it the way I ship you, whatever fits best for your style. But I hope this was entertaining as well as informative, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for coming out, and if you liked it, be sure to click like. And if you're new to the channel and if I found this useful, check out my entire catalog. I have how-tos on every ship in the fleet, some of which are being updated still, but even the older versions of them are still more or less valid, keeping in mind that we are in early access and some bugs come and go and some changes happen here and there on the ships as they go. So, consider subscribing when you catch the new ones if you want to see the new ones. But again, thank you very much for coming out, and hope to see you in a future episode.